welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. Today is making rhubarb wine part 4. If you haven't checked out episodes 1 through 3, go check those out. If you are making this wine along with me, perfect, you are in the right place. I'm going to go over first everything that you're going to need, and then I'm going to take you step by step through the process. Today we are going to back sweeten the wine, and we are going to put it into another vessel to clear. And clearing means letting the wine sit and rest and let all of that sediment flow down to the bottom. Technically, because the fermentation is done, you could bottle today, but I prefer a more clear wine, and there are some steps that we're going to take today that prevents bottling, such as the back sweetening. Now on to all of the things that you're going to need for this process. Everything you see here has been sanitized. It is important that you sanitize anything that is going to touch the wine. I use Easy Clean, but you can use any sanitizing agent that you like. Here we have the wine. If you watched episode 3, you know that it's been about 3 weeks. This has just been in its secondary fermentation. It's got its airlock here. It's no longer bubbling, and this wine is technically done fermenting. I also have a clean carboy here. If you don't have a secondary carboy, that's okay, because there's a bucket here outside of where you can see. It's important that you have a nice bucket if you're going to do back sweetening so that you can stir vigorously. It's very difficult to do that in a carboy. But if you only have the one carboy, you can wash it while this wine is in the bucket. Not a problem. I also have some distilled water here. As you can see on this carboy, there's some extra space here. And during the clearing phase, you want to reduce that headspace up to the neck of the bottle. Even though we're going to have an airlock in here, this is still too much oxygen once the wine is done bubbling and fermenting, because there's no gas to hold the pressure in there. And that is where the distilled water comes in, and also this particular bottle of vodka. You don't have to, this is 100 proof, it's just what I have available, but you can use regular 80 proof vodka. You can also use marbles, sanitized marbles, and you can use just plain distilled water, depending on how much space you have. So if you're more than a quart below the neck, you're going to want to use either distilled water mixed with vodka, marbles to displace the wine, or you can also use a similar wine to fill it up. Now, because I'm making rhubarb wine and I don't have a similar one to use, we're going to use distilled water and vodka today to make sure that it's full all the way up to the neck to reduce the amount of oxygen available to the surface of the wine. This here is Everclear. I like to use that in my airlock, but you know what? You can actually use the distilled water. Now on to the other ingredients. We are going to need Campden tabs, and we are going to need potassium sorbate. These two are very important. I know we use the Campden tabs in the beginning, but you do need to use it again. We're going to back sweeten this wine, and it is possible that the fermentation process could start up again if there's any yeast still in here alive. I don't think you can see it, but I will give you a close-up later. There's a very large pile of sediment down here on the bottom of this carboy, and that's all dead yeast. It's important that after the secondary fermentation, you don't let it sit on the lees too long. The lees is this dead yeast down at the bottom. It can contaminate your wine and give it, and when I say contaminate, I mean, it's not going to make you sick. It's just going to make your wine taste kind of nasty. So for the secondary fermentation, which was in video 3, you're not going to want to leave this too long after the fermentation has completed. This has actually been 4 weeks instead of the 3 that I told you it was going to be, but 1 extra week is not going to be a problem. If I left this for like another 2 months, it might become a problem. But 1 week is not going to be a big deal. You are also going to need a clean airlock. If you're checking the gravity of your wine, you will need a hydrometer. We will be doing that today. You need a big spoon for stirring in the sugar. This is a wine thief, and I'll be using that not only to test the gravity of the wine, but to give it a little taste to see about how much more sugar I want to put in here. Rhubarb wine is fine left dry. So if you do not like sweet wine, but you do want to clear it, then you'll just skip the sugar step of this video, and I'll make sure there's chapters in here so you can skip ahead to where you want to go. You're also going to want to sanitize your measuring spoons that you'll be using. This one's for the sugar, this one's for the potassium sorbate. And then the auto siphon is a lovely thing to have. It makes transferring wine to the bucket and back into the carboy very easy. This is called an auto siphon. And then this is the tubing that goes along with it. Now I'm going to get you up close and personal while we transfer this wine into that bucket over there that you can't see. The first thing we're going to do is remove the airlock and set that aside to be cleaned later. Next, we're going to take the auto siphon and the tubing and insert them. The rubber end here is what goes into the auto siphon. Okay, just like that. And the tube goes into the bucket, and the auto siphon goes into the carboy. You might want to hold it up and not let it rest all the way on the bottom because there's a very deep pile of sediment. Then you will give it a couple of pumps, and the wine will start flowing on its own. Make sure you hold on to your auto siphon because we're going to need that later when we transfer what's in the bucket down here into the new carboy. If you want to take a break, make sure you place a cotton cloth or a towel over the top of your wine bucket, and now would also be a great time to get your carboy in some water and get that rinsed out. They are very, very difficult to clean. If you're doing this late at night or right before you have to be somewhere, at least fill that carboy up with a little soap and water. It will make your life so much easier. Next, we're going to take the wine thief and the hydrometer and check the gravity of the wine. Now, this is before we're putting in any other ingredients. Once you have wine in the wine thief, you'll take your hydrometer, heavy end down, and you're going to put it in the top of the wine thief and spin it. Then you're going to make note of the reading on the hydrometer, and you're going to want to pick the area that's dipping down in the wine, and this is a 0.990, which is exactly what we would expect for a wine that has finished its fermentation. Then I'm going to put this in a wine glass so I can taste test it and see how much sugar I'm going to want to put in it. Here's the color of the wine right now. It's very amber looking, and I do anticipate that it's going to get quite a bit lighter than this. I find this particular color to be just a little bit off-putting. It's a little bit brown. The wine is not oxidized, and I do think it's going to lighten up quite a bit by the time we're ready to bottle. The wine was very, very dry, and I want mine to be sweeter. The flavor profile was lovely though, very floral in my opinion. So we've got 3 cups of sugar here, and we're gonna put some distilled water in here, about a cup, just to help it dissolve a little bit. We're gonna give that a good stir, and when it's all dissolved in, we'll pour it into the bucket, and then we'll give it another taste and see if it's sweet enough. If not, we can use 1 more cup and kind of go from there. This is a 3-gallon recipe, so I don't want to start off with more than 3 cups of sugar. Now it is time to put in the sugar syrup. And we'll give that a good stir. And we'll give it a quick taste. That tastes really nice, not too sweet. And now it's time to do the Campden tabs. And this is a 3-gallon recipe, so we'll put 3 Campden tabs into a baggie. And then we want to make sure that they're crushed. I just use the bottle for this. They're easy to break up. And then we'll put that right into the bucket. And then we want to add a 1.5 teaspoons of the potassium sorbate. And give that a great stir. And now it is time to put the wine back into a new clean carboy. And we'll let that fill up. The reason why we have the carboy on the floor and the bucket up higher is because this is a system that works with gravity. You can use your countertop, but I find that the floor is perfectly fine. Just make sure your floor is clean and there's no small children and animals running around, and your wine will stay clean and your pets and your family will stay safe. We now have a beautifully clear, back-sweetened rhubarb wine that has been prevented from reinventing its fermentation, right? That's why we use the Campden tabs and the potassium sorbate. So it's sweet, it's not supposed to start its fermentation again, and we're going to let it clear. So for the next 2 months, we're going to leave this carboy alone in a cool, dark place and let it just do its thing, and we'll be back to bottle it in about 8 weeks. But before we do that, there's a couple more steps left. Do you see how the wine is really low here? I mean, it's not really low, but it's below the neck. And all of that surface wine is open to oxygen because there are no gases coming out from the wine. That can cause oxidation and spoilage of the wine. It doesn't necessarily make it unsafe to drink, it just makes it unsavory to drink. So what we want to do is we want to get this filled up to the neck. Today I'm going to use the method of distilled water and vodka to go ahead and fill this up. The standard recipe is 1 cup of vodka per half gallon. I have 4 cups here, which is 1/4 gallon, and I'm going to use 1/2 cup of vodka. Okay, so I've got my 1/2 cup of vodka in, and I'm going to fill it up to the 4-cup line with distilled water, and we'll see how close that gets us to the top. in she goes. I know, I'm a messy cook, I'm a messy winemaker, but don't worry. This stuff wipes right up. Okay, we're very close, but not close enough. So we're going to do a little bit more. And this is perfect. All we have to do now is install an airlock. This piece here is called a bung, and it does have a hole in it, and it goes right on top of the carboy. And the airlock goes right on top, and you just kind of twist it in so it's nice and firm. And there's this piece here that goes boop right on top. Again, you can use Everclear or distilled water or boiled water for your airlock, and fill it about halfway to 3/4 full. And there's a little lid that comes with it to keep the flies out, if you have flies. I don't have any flies yet this time of year, but they come eventually. That concludes part 4 of how to make rhubarb wine. This is going to sit for 2 months, make sure it doesn't start fermenting again, and it's going to clear beautifully. So any of the debris that's making this a little bit cloudy is going to fall down to the bottom. And next time I see you for part 5 of the rhubarb winemaking series, we're going to siphon this wine off into another bucket, and then we are going to bottle it and label it and make it beautiful. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to get notifications for the next winemaking series. But for those of you who don't make wine and you're just indulging me, hang in there with me, because I'm about to film and give you my June garden tour. I'm really excited. The garden has gone poof, and the June garden is one of my favorites. I hope you will enjoy it too. So I will be seeing you very, very soon, in just a couple days. Bye!